My name is Alyssa. I'm 27 years old, living in Seattle, and until recently, I thought I had found the man of my dreams. His name is Ryan, 29, tall, confident, and successful. We were engaged, with a wedding date already circled on the calendar. I believed every moment we spent together was proof that true love existed, but I was wrong, painfully wrong. One night, everything I thought I knew came crashing down when I overheard a conversation that ripped my world apart. Imagine thinking you're about to marry the love of your life, only to discover you're nothing more than a pawn in his game. That's what happened to me, and instead of walking away quietly, I decided to give him the kind of revenge he'd never forget. If you love powerful, jaw-dropping revenge stories, make sure to subscribe right now, because what you're about to hear will shock you to your core. It all started one Thursday evening. Ryan told me he had a late business meeting. Something in his tone didn't sit right with me, so I decided to surprise him with his favorite Thai takeout. When I got to his place, I heard voices inside, Ryan's and his parents. I froze, just about to knock, but then I heard my name. "She doesn't know, Mom," Ryan said sharply. "And she never will. Alyssa thinks I'm in love with her, but this marriage is a business move. I need her family's money to pay off the debts. Once I'm secure, I'll figure out how to leave her cleanly." I felt my blood run cold. His mother's response was calm, almost approving. "That's how it works, Ryan. You marry her, get what you need, and then step away. Don't let her catch on before the wedding." I nearly dropped the bag of food in my hands. My fiancé, the man who held my heart, was plotting to use me, with his parents encouraging it. In that instant, the life I thought I had crumbled into dust. I didn't knock. I didn't go inside. I walked back to my car, numb, my heart pounding so loudly I could barely think. Tears blurred my vision, but beneath the pain, a fire started burning. Ryan thought he could play me, trick me, and walk away clean. He had no idea who he was dealing with. From that night forward, my love story turned into a revenge story, and I was going to make sure he regretted ever seeing me as a wallet instead of a woman. The next morning, Ryan called me like nothing had happened. His voice was cheerful, almost too cheerful. He asked me about dinner plans, reminded me about our cake tasting appointment, and told me how much he loved me. My chest tightened as I listened, because now every word sounded fake, calculated. I could have confronted him right then, but I didn't. If I accused him without proof, he'd deny everything. Worse, he might twist it to make me look crazy. No, I couldn't just scream and walk away. I had to think bigger. If Ryan was marrying me for money, then I'd make him choke on his own lies. So I said sweetly into the phone, "I love you too. Can't wait for tonight." He had no idea I was already plotting his downfall. The first thing I did was talk to my parents. I didn't tell them the full truth. I wasn't ready yet. Instead, I explained I wanted to handle all wedding payments through them directly, not through me. That way, nothing would trace back to my bank account. They thought I was just trying to be organized, and they agreed. Then I contacted a lawyer in secret. I asked about prenuptial agreements, property rights, and ways to protect myself if my fiancé had ulterior motives. The lawyer's questions made me realize just how dangerous Ryan's plan could be. If I wasn't careful, he could walk away, not only with money, but also with pieces of my future. That was when I decided I wasn't going to be a victim. I would let him walk right into the wedding, thinking he had won, and then take everything away from him in one devastating blow. Playing the role of the doting fiancé was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every smile, every kiss, every "I love you" felt like poison in my mouth. But Ryan bought it. He believed I was clueless, that I was still blinded by love. One night, as we were planning honeymoon destinations, he casually said, "Babe, maybe your parents could just cover the down payment for the house. It'll be easier than waiting on the bank." I smiled, tilting my head like I was seriously considering it. Inside, though, my blood boiled. His greed wasn't even subtle anymore. "Of course, Ryan," I whispered, resting my head on his shoulder. "I'll talk to them about it." What he didn't know was that every request, every shady suggestion he made, I documented. I kept screenshots, recordings, notes, evidence that would later expose him not just to me, but to everyone he tried to deceive. And then came the night I discovered just how deep his betrayal went. Weeks passed, and I continued to play the perfect fiancé. To Ryan, I was still hopelessly in love, fussing over flowers, guest lists, and honeymoon plans. To myself, I was a woman sharpening her weapon, patience. Every lie he told became fuel for the fire I was building inside. One evening, I was at Ryan's apartment waiting for him to come back from work. He had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. Normally, I never touched his things. Trust was supposed to be sacred, but now, trust was gone. All I had left was the need for truth. My hands trembled as I clicked the mail app. What I found nearly made me vomit. There were emails between Ryan and his father, subject lines like debt settlement and next steps after wedding. In one, his father had written, "Once you secure the marriage, we'll move funds into your joint account. Don't drag it out longer than 6 months before you cut ties. Make sure she doesn't see it coming." Ryan's reply was even worse. "Don't worry, Dad. She's head over heels. Alyssa would sign her life away if I asked. After the honeymoon, I'll push for joint investments and get access to her family's assets." I sat there, my heart racing, bile rising in my throat. They weren't just using me, they were plotting a financial ambush. I snapped pictures of every email, sent them to myself, and deleted any trace of activity. When Ryan came home, he kissed me on the cheek and asked what I wanted for dinner. I smiled, hiding the storm inside me. That night, I lay in his bed, pretending to be asleep, while in my mind, I built the final layers of my plan. I wasn't just going to call off the wedding. No, I was going to let him walk right into it, certain he had won, and then crush him in front of everyone he cared about. To set the trap, I confided in my best friend Emily. She was the only person I trusted. When I showed her the screenshots and told her my idea, her eyes widened. "Are you serious, Alyssa? That's brutal." "Yes," I whispered, "but he deserves it. He thinks I'm just some stupid girl with a rich family. He has no idea who he's messing with." Together, Emily and I crafted every detail, from how I'd protect my finances, to how I'd expose him publicly, to how I'd make sure his family's reputation was tied to his downfall. Every time I looked at Ryan after that, I didn't see my fiancé. I saw prey, arrogant, greedy, and walking straight into my trap. The wedding was only 2 months away. Ryan thought he was weeks away from securing his golden ticket, but little did he know, I was weeks away from destroying him in front of everyone. What would you do if you discovered your fiancé wasn't marrying you out of love, but out of greed? Most people would run, but not me. I wanted him to feel safe, confident, untouchable until the very moment I pulled the ground out from under him. This is the part where the revenge begins. Stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe if you love shocking revenge stories that flip the script on betrayal. With the evidence safe in my hands, emails, screenshots, and recordings, I was ready. But the revenge couldn't be rushed. The closer we got to the wedding, the more careless Ryan became. He was convinced I was clueless, and his arrogance became my best weapon. One evening, he and his mother met with me to discuss wedding finances. Caroline smiled sweetly, her voice dripping with false warmth. "Alyssa, darling, since your parents are comfortable financially, wouldn't it make sense for them to cover the honeymoon too? You know, as a gift to both of you?" I sipped my tea, smiled, and said, "Of course. I'll bring it up to them." Inside, I wanted to laugh in her face. The gall of this woman asking me to beg my parents for even more money while they plotted behind my back. That night, I told Emily everything. "They're digging their own grave," I said, pacing her apartment. "They don't realize that every request, every greedy comment, it's all adding fuel to my fire." 2 weeks before the wedding, Ryan pushed harder. "We should set up a joint account before the honeymoon," he said casually while we were at dinner. "It'll make things easier, babe. We can deposit some of your family's wedding gifts into it." I leaned in, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "You always think of everything." He smiled, smug and satisfied, having no clue I was already one step ahead. Finally, the night before the wedding rehearsal, I put the final touches on my plan. Emily would sit in the audience with a flash drive loaded with all the evidence. During the rehearsal dinner speeches, I'd give Ryan one last chance to show his true colors. If he failed, Emily would be ready to project his emails on the big screen in front of my family, friends, and his. But the sweetest part, I had already met with the officiant privately, explained everything, and arranged for a little adjustment to the vows. Ryan thought he'd be saying "I do" to a marriage. In reality, he'd be saying "I do" to his own public humiliation. The wedding day approached, and Ryan strutted around like a man who thought he'd already won. He kissed me at the rehearsal, whispered, "Tomorrow, everything changes." He was right, but not in the way he thought. The morning of my wedding day, I stared at myself in the mirror, dressed in white, veil pinned perfectly, every curl of my hair falling just right. To everyone else, I was a glowing bride, but inside, I wasn't a bride, I was an executioner. Today wasn't about saying I do. Today was about saying, I know. Ryan looked dashing in his suit, playing the part of the loving groom to perfection. He held my hand tightly before the ceremony, whispering, "We're going to have the perfect life, Alyssa." I smiled sweetly, hiding the storm inside me. The perfect life? You mean the perfect scam? As the ceremony began, guests wiped tears. My parents looked proud, and Ryan's family beamed with smug approval. Ryan delivered his vows, dripping with false sincerity. "Alyssa, you're the love of my life. I promise to stand by you forever." I held his gaze, and for a moment, I wondered if he actually believed his own lies. Then it was my turn. I took a deep breath, glanced at Emily in the front row. She gave me the tiniest nod, and I began. "Ryan, when I first met you, I thought I had found the man of my dreams. Someone who loved me for me, not for what I had. But dreams can be deceiving." Murmurs rippled through the audience. Ryan's smile faltered slightly. I continued, "Because love built on lies doesn't last. And when a man plots with his parents to marry for money, when he sends emails about using his fiancé's family to cover his debts, that's not love. That's betrayal." Gasps filled the room. Ryan's face turned white. He stammered, "Alyssa, what are you doing?" I didn't answer. Instead, I signaled to Emily. She stood, plugged in the flash drive, and suddenly, the big screen behind us lit up. Email after email appeared, Ryan's words in black and white, his father's instructions, his greed exposed for all to see. My father's face hardened with rage. My mother covered her mouth in shock. Guests whispered in disbelief. Ryan lunged toward the screen, but it was too late. His secrets were public now. "Alyssa, stop this," he begged, his voice cracking. I turned to him, my voice steady. "No, Ryan, you stop. Stop lying. Stop pretending. Stop using people. You thought you could play me, but the game is over." Silence fell over the room as I removed the ring from my finger. I placed it in his trembling hand. "You wanted a marriage for money. What you're left with is humiliation for free." And with that, I turned, lifted my dress, and walked down the aisle not as a bride, but as a woman who had reclaimed her power. Behind me, I could hear the chaos, Ryan shouting, his parents scrambling, my guests buzzing. But I didn't look back. My revenge was complete, or so I thought. I walked out of that wedding hall with my head held high, veil flowing behind me like a banner of victory. But the story didn't end there. For Ryan, the humiliation was just the beginning. The fallout hit him fast and hard. My parents immediately pulled back every cent they had invested into the wedding and the house. The vendors all prepaid under my family's name, refused to refund Ryan or his parents a dime. The debt he had tried so desperately to cover was now suffocating him. His parents, once so smug, suddenly became pariahs in their social circle. People whispered about the family who tried to scam their future daughter-in-law. Caroline avoided the grocery store for weeks, too ashamed to face the judgmental stares. But my favorite part came a week later, when Ryan showed up at my apartment. His eyes were bloodshot, his suit wrinkled, and for the first time, he looked small, defeated. "Alyssa, please," he begged. "You didn't have to do that. You ruined me. My business, my reputation, everything is gone." I crossed my arms, leaned against the doorway, and smiled coldly. "No, Ryan, you ruined yourself. You thought you could use me. You thought love was just a transaction. Now you know betrayal comes with a price." I shut the door in his face. Months passed, and my life blossomed without him. I started therapy, reconnected with old friends, and even took a solo trip to Italy, a honeymoon for one, and it was perfect. Meanwhile, Ryan filed for bankruptcy. His parents sold their vacation home to cover his debts. The man who once stood so tall in his tailored suits was now reduced to begging old business partners for mercy. Did I feel guilty? No, not for a second. Because I hadn't just protected myself, I had shown him and everyone watching that women are not pawns to be played. Looking back, I realized something powerful. Revenge isn't always about destroying someone else. Sometimes it's about showing yourself how strong you really are. I walked away not just free, but stronger than ever. And Ryan, he'll forever remember the day he tried to scam his fiancée and she turned it into the day he lost everything. What would you have done in my place? Would you have walked away quietly or staged the ultimate wedding day revenge? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you loved this story, make sure you hit subscribe for more jaw-dropping revenge stories every week. Because sometimes, Justice doesn't come from the courts, it comes from us.